We put out a casting call to randos.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, are you weird and untrustworthy? Come be in our movie.
Hello. She hates when I say that.
She sounds like Mrs. Doubtfire. She sounds exactly like Robin Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire when she has the.
Hello.
That's exactly that's all I think about whenever she does that.
All right, guys, we are Screen Sisters, and we are having our first interview today. Woo! We are joined today by Ricky Glore, and we are going to talk a little bit about his new horror movie. So in most horror movies, the teenagers are played by actors in their 30s and whatnot, and you know, why not make a slasher film with actors who are actually supposed to be in their 30s? As one of the characters in the upcoming indie horror film, All Your Friends Are Dead laments, in a movie starring middle-aged people, if they die from heart attacks and some rare blood disease, cancer, or diabetes. They don't die of knives or machetes or chainsaws, nothing sexy like that. Well, this movie is about to change all of that. When 35-year-old Matt Wilby looks at the current state of his life, he recognizes through depression that his best years may be far behind him. After making the drastic decision to end his life, he writes an email alerting the estranged but once inseparable high school group dubbed the Pack that he will be saying goodbye for good at the very camping ground where they all had last seen each other. Rushing to his side, Matt's old friends arrive just in time at the campsite to save his life. But little do they know, a deranged mass killer is lurking in the woods, ready to pick them off one by one. And it's their own lives they'll have to start worrying about. This film is written and directed by Ricky Glore and Nicholas Hiance. Is it Hiance? Am I saying it? Hiance.
It's all right, Hiance. You wouldn't have known.
Hiance. And as of July of this year, 2021, they've actually already filmed a large portion of the film in the greater Kentucky area. The film will also feature special effects, a makeup team who have worked on Haunt, Candy Corn, Notzilla, Terror Trips, and Netflix's Hillbilly Elegy. So if you are a fan of independent horror and are excited to be a part of the community that will bring life to this film, you can go to the Kickstarter campaign that is going live today, Monday, August 30th. And it is going to run through the end of September with the goal of reaching $5,000. So
not too much.
Ricky. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's not a lot. We're not asking for a lot. We're not asking for $100,000. Just a measly little 5,000. And unlike a lot of projects, we've already got a lot of the movie filmed in the can. We're just needing that. A lot of that. One of the perks that we're offering that you can see on the website on Kickstarter is a copy of the Blu-ray with the movie, an exclusive commentary track that will only be on this release. Say if we were to get picked up by distribution later on, and behind the scenes featurettes. It's only 100 copies limited for that perk, and it's $80. If we sell if all those perks, all 100 of those get purchased, that's $8,000. So that just helps us even more. It helps us way surpass our goal. And a lot of those funds are going to like post-production. They're going to the musicians and the people who are going to score and sound mix the movie.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of things that we just need that extra assistance on to wrap up and make the movie look and sound and be the best that it could possibly be.
Of course. And we hope you all can help out with that. So Ricky, tell me a bit about yourself. How did you get into stand-up actually?
From stand-up to horror, I grew up in Northern Kentucky, very close to Cincinnati, even so close that even when anybody ever asks where I'm from, I usually say Cincinnati because saying Kentucky just opens it up to a barrage of dumb questions.
I concur.
It's not like we're Florida. Take that, Florida. My wife's from Florida, so I can make fun of it. But so growing up in Northern Kentucky, being close to Cincinnati, I was someone who the movie All Your Friends Are Dead, the script is semi-autobiographical. I play the lead, Matt Wilby, because it's very indie. So to have a lead actor that you can rely upon, me and Nick Hiance were like, well, I guess I should be the lead. And then that led into writing the script being about myself and how I played sports all through my high school years until I got hurt and then transitioned into theater. So the movie is actually based off of, well, what if I hadn't gotten hurt? I would have then went to college for probably a wrestling scholarship. And then what can you do with that in the real world? But for my own life, I did get hurt. I was always interested in theater, comedy, improv. And so then after high school, I went to college and really wanted to be on the improv team there, because my goal then was like, be on the improv team, move to Chicago, do Second City, work in some way for Saturday Night Live. I've been really fortunate to audition for Saturday Night Live.
Oh,
I
awesome.
did not get it.
Oh, they're missing
here.
out. They're lost. They're lost.
I think it's because I have a little bit of that too much of a Midwestern Chris Farley vibe. We'll make that excuse. But so in college, I couldn't get on the improv team, and a local comedy club was offering stand-up classes, and I took that. And then I just ended up becoming the house MC for the club, getting to work with a lot of SNL alums, Kevin Nealon, Jim Brewer, Tracy Morgan, pretty much anybody I wanted to work with, I could from SNL. And then just continued to do that until I moved to Chicago, where I did do Second City, Improv Olympics. Put stand-up on the back burner a little bit because I was doing some more theater stuff. And then when I moved back to Northern Kentucky in 2017, I picked up stand-up again. And then it kind of steamrolled to where last year I released my first album and I did my first comedy special for Dry Bar Comedy.
That sounds like you've had quite the life.
I wear a lot of hats. And I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have like a really supportive family, friends, infrastructure, and then now my wife, who is incredibly supportive of every endeavor I do. Having a 2-year-old daughter, the pandemic kind of made it easy because it kind of put a halt to touring and doing stand-up. So there was like a whole year where I just got to be at home and watch her grow up.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice.
Alrighty. Okay. So you already mentioned that you wanted to make this horror project. So what made you want to do this? Like what threw you from doing it like a comedy film, which is something you probably would have been more something easier for you to do.
Nicholas Hiance, who created developed the story with me and is co-directing, and he's also the director of photography for this project. Him and I went to high school together, and our freshman year of college, we actually did a cable access sketch comedy show with a couple other friends. So like we've definitely had experience doing that. As I said, like my love for SNL, that's that sketch show was a way to do that as well. But like he always asked me, he's like, you want to do horror? You want to do horror? He's like, why don't you write a comedy? Why don't we write a comedy film? And I'm like, comedy is hard. Like especially sustainable comedy. Like in retrospect, how many comedy films are not problematic or of their time? How many of them hold up?
Yeah.
And I think we are in a conscious society right now, or some people are in a conscious society right now, that me being a creative, I often reflect on the things that I love and I go, okay, I don't think things should be quote unquote canceled or thrown away forever. They should be looked at through the lens of when were they made? What were the circumstances? And as long as we're not perpetuating them and saying that certain things that, like, for example, the James Bond movies. I think you can go back and watch the older James Bond movies and enjoy them for what they were, but also realize that the misogyny, which is pretty hard to swallow now, is not acceptable now. We shouldn't be making the same film that we did then now. So that's a big reason for the comedy. And also, everybody who makes an independent movie wants to make a good movie for the most part, even if it turns out awful. There's a little bit more of a safety net when you're doing horror, because you all can be working as earnestly as possible, and the movie could end up humorous in not ways that you wanted it to be, but that's still entertainment, and that's great. So I wanted to make a horror movie, and I've made a couple short films in the past year that are in festival circuit right now called Call and Racist. And after doing those, I was like, okay, I want to put my money where my mouth is, and I want to make a 90-minute horror feature, and I think we can do it. And if we plan it almost like they do for a 48-hour film festival, with obviously more time and more scheduling, I was like, I think we can do it if we write a script that is specifically catered around the things that we know we can film, and like locations we can film at, actors we can do, have. And a goal of ours is to make sure everyone gets paid in some way, because so many time in the arts, people are working for free.
Yeah.
Accurate.
So what is the process been like then to write this film?
It was quick.
Uh-huh.
I'm especially as my time in Chicago, where I was writing and producing and staging musicals almost every 4 months, like parody musicals. So like I got started off doing A Nightmare on Backstreet, which was a Nightmare on Elm Street with the music of Backstreet Boys.
Oh,
I would love to see that.
yeah.
Google it.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, that one got a lot of notoriety and has been performed in like 8 other locations.
That's awesome.
Yeah, one of which was in an outdoor amphitheater in Somerset, Kentucky. So like southern Kentucky near Grand Canyon.
Okay.
At an outdoor amphitheater, which was just hilarious to watch. A couple different college productions, which it's always cool to see how different people interpret your work. And so I was doing those kind of musicals every 4 to 6 months. So I'm someone, because of stand-up, I love writing something and then getting it on its feet, like pretty quickly, like writing it, knowing I'm going to do this for the good and for the bad. When I write, I'm a self-editor. I'm like, well, I'm not going to write that because I don't think I know how to do that or how we would mount that or make that happen.
Yeah.
For the good, it means that I'm kind of working as a producer while I'm writing. For the bad, I'm sure it stifles some ideas.
Right.
But for this, I had some ideas of All Your Friends Are Dead for a while, but I didn't get really pen to paper until I want to say April of this year.
Okay.
And then wrote a couple drafts. And Nick and I sat down after storyboarding, and we're like, okay, now when do we want to film the large part that we had already filmed, or that we filmed, is the camping stuff. And I was like, let's schedule 3 days where we knock out, God, it was almost like 40 pages, which is ridiculous. Like in filming, you do not film 40 pages in a day, especially dialogue. In a day.
Gosh.
With like 5 actors, we started rolling camera at like 8:30 in the morning, and then had a few breaks, and then we did a nighttime shoot at 9 o'clock, and then didn't break until 10:30 at night. And then we came back the next morning and then did all of the special effects stuff the next day for those 40, like that went in between different parts of those 40 pages.
Right.
But yeah, it was bonkers, because usually you do like 10 pages a day, right? 8 pages a day. Yeah.
I think 40 is unheard of.
I'm not saying it's good.
Yeah.
But we did it.
I feel like I just would have been asleep. Like
So,
you were like page 15. I'm like,
so that's the thing, is like so it was outdoors too. It was this in this area that looked actually, you watched Call. So in that same area, one of the producers, Chris Morris, who played one of the Crow mask killers in Call, he plays the mask killer in All Your Friends Are Dead. That's his land. And if you do a 360, you can see trees. So it's a lot of acreage. He cleared out an area for camping. So almost in that same area where you see the pregnant woman running in Call, that's where we filmed a lot of All Your Friends Are Dead.
Okay.
And so it's under a lot of trees, especially during summer. And so it's nice and shaded, but you're outside that whole time. So me being in the movie All Your Friends Are Dead and also co-directing and producing, like I said, wearing way too many hats, not because I want to, not because I have an ego that's like, I have to do this, but like being in it, we shot until I think from 8:30 to 2 p.m. And then we went for lunch. And when we came back, that's when I was tied to the chair scene that I was mentioned before. And I sat there and our script supervisor handed me the script and I looked at it and I was just like, I don't know any of these lines. I was like, they were in my head at one point, but because of how exhausted I am, they're gone. I don't know them. And so like I said to the rest of the cast, I was like, I apologize. Luckily these shots are all in like my shots are in singles, which mean the camera's just on me reacting and then speaking to you.
Right.
And their group shots and then their coverage. But I was like, I'm going to be getting fed the line and then saying it. And then it's going to go to you. And then it's going to come to me. And then it's going to like, I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, I'm brain dead. I was like, I don't know how to explain it. And I was like, you know, we don't have to be here for the special effects until a little later on Sunday. All I need is a good night's sleep, at least 7 to like 8 hours. And I was like, and I'll come back refreshed. My body will be sore, but I'll be refreshed mentally. It took me 4 days.
Oh my God.
Like I was just a zombie mentally. The physical exhaustion was bad, but like the mental exhaustion, I liken it to, I'm not much of a drinker and I don't really do any recreational drugs anymore. But like, I remember when I used to smoke weed, that's how I felt. Would be like, you'd get high and then it would take you like a week to kind of like mentally get your acumen back.
I feel like that only happens to me after I have an edible.
I don't even feel like edibles existed the last time that I smoked.
Oh my. Okay, so you mentioned before that you said that you wanted to like be a part of because you wanted to do it a certain way. So you are the lead character in your movie. So did you want it to be teenagers or did you want it to be people?
So when we were first tossing around, when the push came to shove of like, we've got to, if we don't make a feature length movie, we're going to regret it. I don't want 20 years from now being like, oh, I always said we could have and we didn't, blah, blah, blah. I was like, let's do it. And if it's awful, but whatever, we did it. We'll make sure that it doesn't put us in too much debt. We'll be smart about that. And then so we were like, okay, but how are we going to have an actor that's reliable, that we can write a bunch of stuff around, that it's just Nick on the camera and just me, and then maybe a couple people here and there. And then I was like, well, you know, I don't want to be in it, but like, I guess it would have to be me.
Yeah.
So then I started brainstorming and writing down ideas. I was like, okay, what do I look like? Well, I'm an overweight 35-year-old man with a beard. I was like, what could that be? If it's in a horror movie, what is that? And I'm like, I could be someone who was an ex-mall Santa. I could be someone who girlfriend breaks up with him and all she throws out all of his clothes or burns all of his belongings except for the mall Santa costume. And then he goes to a cabin in the woods situation and maybe it's like Evil Dead meets a mall Santa. So maybe you could call it Santa versus Satan. I don't know. Weirdly enough, there's nothing on IMDb that has that title. So if anyone listening wants to steal that, go right ahead. Not doing it. But so then we were thinking like, well, that's a concept. That's not a story. There's nothing really drawing us emotionally to that story. We neither one of us have a relatability of being a mall Santa. And then I was like, we're both 35. We're middle-aged or semi-considered middle-aged. And I was like, you don't ever see horror movies like that. Like, and then I think I said, I was like, what if it was like the Breakfast Club, but older in a Friday the 13th movie, and they're no longer cool. Like everyone has so little inhibitions when they're younger, and like they don't have a fear of dying, and just like the world's going to be great, all these things are going to happen. I was like, what if King Shit of Turd Mountain athlete never got traction after school, and like kind of never hung out with those friends again, and then like his life is just depressing. And then I was like, and he goes to the woods and kill himself, and like then the rest of the Breakfast Club shows up to be like, no, you don't want to kill yourself, and he thinks about it, but then add the Jason Voorhees in the woods,
Right.
and then it's the irony of, oh, he went there to kill himself, but now he's going to have to really decide if he wants to live or not. What was you? Did you make what was your hypothesis, Angela?
So my hot
hypothesis.
My hippopotamus is that is that Matt will find the event itself cathartic, and that by the end of it, he will realize that his life has value and that he has chosen to live. So he will kind of be like an underdog hero type.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, so mentioning that we filmed the third that was with the camping with the rest of the characters, and those classic archetypes of like the nerd who kind of grew up to be Jeff Bezos,
right.
The ex-girlfriend cheerleader who is now a single mom of 2 kids, the pack of friends, the guy and the girl, the guy who was a closeted homosexual, and the girl that was the only person who knew that he was gay, who were inseparable. Those two, that's part of the close-knit, the pack,
right,
that come and save him. So the first part of the movie is we just follow Matt in a day in like 3 days in his life kind of thing, leading up to this ultimate decision of just a snowball of depression. Him going, I don't have a reason to live. My best days are behind me, and that's really fucking depressing. And so, yes, there is. So that's why we made it that way, is because then Nick and I can just film a lot of that on our own. I will say that we toyed with a twist while we were writing it, and like we talked about it a lot while we were filming the camping stuff. We're like, so this is what it is, and we're like, but what if it's also this? And I know I'm speaking very cryptically, but so your hypothesis is very true. He goes through a baptism of sorts, especially a baptism and a rebirth, because after filming the scene that I mentioned, I think it was before we started the podcast, where I get covered in blood.
Right.
That is definitely a literal baptism, but in someone else's blood.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
But I love that you read that. You were like, oh, I think I know where this is gonna go. Like it's like he's gonna choose to live, and like he unfortunately is gonna have. I mean, it's hard. While doing interviews for this Kickstarter in this movie, I'm like, how much spoilers do I talk about? And I was like, well, you know what? It's kind of right there in the title. All your friends are dead.
Right.
So I think they're going to figure out that only one of these people are going to live.
Right. What is it, that movie? Oh, John Tucker. No.
John dies at the end.
Or yeah, John dies at the end. John dies at the end.
There's John dies at the end, and then there's what is it called? It's something Tucker must die.
Yeah.
With Hayden Panettiere.
Yeah.
Isn't it just John Tucker?
I think it is John Tucker.
Yeah.
Hey, you know who's in that movie? Penn Badgley.
Oh, okay.
And then there is the Don Coscarelli movie that was adapted from a book, is John dies at the end. So yeah, there's a little bit of like, well, you know what's going to happen at the end of this movie.
Right. So you had mentioned earlier that you guys are filming in it was Northern Kentucky, right? Northern
Kentucky and kind of Southern Ohio.
In Southern Ohio. So is it like is your shoot open to the public? Like, are you going to be meeting like random, like not like, like extras and whatnot?
specifically
You need
randos.
anybody to die in the background.
We put out a casting call to randos.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, are you weird and untrustworthy? Come be in our movie.
That's what we need.
That's what we're looking for. You fit our bill. We actually we filmed a scene at a local brewery called Darkness Brewing, which they actually play a little bit. It's nice that they allowed us to film there because they play a little bit into a background gag that happens throughout the movie that I'm really excited to see if people pick up on once the movie comes out. But we filmed a scene at the brewery and we put out a casting thing for extras. I mean, it's real glamorous, unpaid extras that shot between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. on a Sunday. So we're like, yeah, come to this brewery and just know there's no beer. They can't serve beer. And we're going to tell you that you can't talk, but you have to look like you're talking.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun, but no, a good amount of people did help us out with that. And I just kind of put out a beacon on Facebook, and the brewery itself put out a nice message asking people to come.
All right, that's cool.
So
Yeah.
I know you had mentioned that you have a good chunk of the filming completed. Do you have like an estimated time of when you want the film to be released?
I would say the longest times, especially in my experience with short films, post-production is way longer than production.
Yeah.
And to get the sound right, the scoring right, and the coloring right, that is probably going to take quite a few months, especially with this being our first. We're probably going to baby it quite a bit. I hope to have all those components into a watchable, screenable thing that would feel like an actual movie, probably by May 2022.
Okay.
One of my goals is to be able to submit it to Sundance and some more notable festivals, probably, I think this time next year, because I just submitted Racist to Sundance for a short film. And I think they close on submissions at the end of August.
Okay. All right. Good luck. I guess on a different note, we've got the Dark Universe, we've got the Conjuring universe, we've got a bunch of Halloween movies, we've got a bunch of Scream movies. Do you think that All Your Friends Are Dead has franchise potential?
Not making it with the idea of franchise. I'm a film nerd and I love horror movies, obviously, but like A Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite horror movie of all time. It's actually one of my favorite movies. And Wes Craven, the ending that ends up in the film with the mom being pulled through the door and the convertible top coming over and Freddy driving away, that was not the ending. That was Bob Shea of New Line Cinema, who was like, you can't end this ambiguously wondering if it was a dream or not. Like, we have to end with a final scare and a hook for if this thing gets picked up and sequels happen. And this is 84, which there weren't a ton of sequels. What really broke the sequel barrier in more the modern age of film, because like if you go back to the Universal movies, like the Frankensteins had a ton of sequels, the Draculas had a ton of sequels.
Yeah.
But like Jaws 2 kind of reset the sequels again, and then came Halloween 2, and then all the Friday the 13th every year. But so that was a cantankerous point of contention between Wes Craven and Bob Shea. Was Bob Shea's like, I want to have Freddy pull up in a school bus and take the kids away, and Wes Craven's like, no fucking way, like that's not happening.
Yeah.
And so they quote unquote compromised, and Bob Shea was basically like, look, I gave you the money to make your vision, so we're gonna do something of what I say. And then Bob Shea made Freddy drive the school bus in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 as a fuck you to Wes.
Wow.
But so while we're tying that all into while we're making All Your Friends Are Dead, the thing that I mentioned that we developed while filming and was always in the back of our mind for the script was, what if there was a twist? And we decided to go with the twist, and that actually allows us to make a sequel if we wanted to. It actually helped us develop the final scene of the movie that kind of leaves it open-ended.
Okay.
Because originally it was going to be kind of like cut and dry, like, yep, Matt lived, and Matt, decides he wants to live now, and he's driving off into the sunset, and all of his friends are dead. That's very sad, but he's found a new zest on life, kind of selfishly. But with the new ending, the masked killer could still be out there.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
This was awesome.
This was awesome.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you for letting me be your first guest.
Yeah, no, thank you for wanting to do this with us. This is so cool.
Yeah.
But yes, good luck. All your friends are dead. They are raising money starting today, August 30th, on Kickstarter. Go there, please donate. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all. Bye.